Good day, my SC viewers. This is Satellite Media. Let us look at the decision of the Southeastern governors to interface with federal government to secure the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Recall that during the last sitting of the court, the judge, Justice Bitanyako, asked the parties to see if they could interface and reach out of court settlement through the office of the Attorney General of the Federation. And ever since then, we have seen some move from different quarters. I think we saw the move from the House of Representative members, about 50 of them, writing to the President, Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, appealing to him for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Shortly after that, we saw the call from the Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 general election, P2B, calling for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. I think as at the last count, we have seen a younger brother to the former governor of Ekiti State, Ayo Fayose, calling on President Bola Tinubu to release Nnamdi Kanu, giving contract just as Jonathan did in the past as the president, where he gave contract to Tom Polo's company, that if you do that, it will increase his popularity in the southeastern part of the country and perhaps give him more vote in 2027. But this latest one is coming from the North Southeastern Governors Forum. We understand that the Southeastern Governors Forum have members as the governor of Imo State, who is believed to be very close to the government of the day at the center, talking about Uzodinma, who perhaps may be leading the delegation. We have Ebonyi State, Umufuru. We have Anambra State as Professor Chukuma Soludo. We have Enugu State as Barrister Mba. We equally have Abia State as Alex Oti. So these men will, in a few days from now, from what we are seeing, engage the federal government to see whether they could reach out of court settlement with Nnamdi Kanu's case. And for what we are having here, he said the Southeast Governors Forum on Tuesday resolved to visit President Bola Tinubu and interface with the federal government to secure the release of the 10 leader of indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu. The governors made the resolution at their meeting in Enugu on Tuesday. The meeting, which lasted about 6 hours, had in attendance all the 5 Southeast governors: Peter Mba, that is Enugu, Alex Oti, Abia, Professor Chukuma Soludo, Anambra, Francis Umufuru, Ebonyi, and Senator Hope Uzodinma, Imo State. I think from what we are seeing, I think what is sauce for the goose is equally sauce for the gander. Because since the government came on board, we are seeing a situation where someone like Sunday Igboho, who during the time of Muhammadu Buhari as president, rose to prominence when the federal government created a vacuum of inability to protect lives and property in different parts of the country. We saw a very big vacuum in Ibarapa area of Oyo State, and Sunday Igboho rose to prominence when he rose in defense of the people, and Nigerians across the board applauded his efforts. But unfortunately, the government of Muhammadu Buhari saw it differently. They came hard on him. We observed how DSS invaded his house at the dead of the night. He flee from the country, and I think he remained in one of our neighboring countries of Benin Republic until this government came on board. So we're all happy when this government perhaps reached a truce with Benin Republic government through diplomatic means, and Sunday Igboho was released. And under this administration as well, we have seen the president or the chairman of Mietiala, Bodejo, put on trial on terrorism-related issues. And as at the last count, we understand that the Attorney General of the Federation, who represents government, or rather who prosecutes on behalf of the federal government, appealed the court and withdrew the case. And the circumstance is cited in the interest of justice. So that's why we are saying that what is sauce for the goose is equally sauce for the gander. That hence, someone like Sunday Igboho was released, someone like Budejo was let off the hook. Yeah, there's every need for the federal government, particularly to synergize with the stakeholders from the southeast part of the country and see to Nnamdi Kanu release. And we are looking at this from the angle that the constitution is very clear about the primary purpose of governance. We are talking about security of lives and property and the welfare of Nigerians. I think section 14 of 1999 constitution has amended. It's very clear that the welfare of Nigerians and their security shall be the primary purpose of governance. And in no doubt, you cannot, it's understandable that in the southeastern part of the country, there is serious level of insecurity. And everybody has spoken to that issue. That if someone like Nnamdi Kanu is out of the hook, that the insecurity in the southeastern part of the country will come down. And recently, when Nnamdi Kanu himself had the opportunity to speak, he made abundantly clear that if he's out in 2 minutes, the security in the southeastern part of the country would be a thing of the past. So for me, I think if not for any other thing, in the interest of peace, I think there is every need for federal government to synergize and see how Nnamdi Kanu could be released. Because from what we are seeing, it is no longer funny in the southeastern part of the country, particularly because of the issue of insecurity. It is very important at this point that federal government interface with all the stakeholders from the southeastern part of the country. I think it should not be limited to the politicians, because before now, not so much issues have been raised that the political class is not doing enough to interface with the federal government to see whether Nnamdi Kanu could be released. We have seen calls from religious leaders. We have seen calls from traditional institutions. We have seen calls from different quarters. But this time around, I think what makes it different is we are seeing the political class coming out to speak. And from all indication, if the political class is speaking, I think it will have more weight. Because if someone like Uzodinma will be in the team, perhaps a leader of the team, I think they will have the listening ear of the current administration. Because however I look at it, the current administration is in good relationship with the government of Imo State. And I want a situation where if someone like the former governor of Ebonyi State, who is the current minister of was should be in that team, I think it's going to add color to it, because these are people who are well positioned, well rooted, strategically positioned in this government, and the government will give them a little ear. Then let us equally go to the area of insecurity. When finally Nnamdi Kanu is released, I think the federal government should look beyond the present status quo in terms of how Nigeria is being policed. Because I think this is what is giving rise to most of the challenges we are having in the country. A situation where a Sunday Igboho will rise and want to defend the people. A situation where you see some people coming up with different security architecture that may not be known to law. And I think the reason we are seeing all this is because of insecurity. So the federal government needs to think out of the box in terms of how to protect the people. At this point, I think there's every need that we should rejig our security architecture to the point that let us vocalize it. Let us perhaps remove it from the exclusive legislative list. I understand that currently the issue of security is on the exclusive legislative list. But let us see if we can move it to the concurrent list so that both National Assembly and state houses of assembly can legislate on it. And when they do that, we can start seeing security arrangement, security bodies at the level of state governments. I understand that in the Southwest, for instance, we already have what we call Amatekun. I think in the Southwest, eastern part of the country, we equally have what we call Ibuago. But what is lacking is the ability of these security arrangements to bear arm, to be able to combat crime and criminality. And of course, we understand that the bandits, the criminals, the terrorists who hibernate in the forests, in the bushes, have access to sophisticated weapons. And the only way these security arrangements at the state level can combat crime is to bear arm that is even more sophisticated than what these bandits, criminals are bearing. And we understand that before you procure arm, you need an end user certificate from the Office of the National Security Advisor. That is where collaboration comes in. That's where federal government needs to synergize with the state governments so that when we have the security arrangements, let us have the federal government giving permission through the Office of National Security Advisor to permit this security arrangement at the state level to bear arm. If they do that, I think it's going to be a win-win situation for all parties because the protection of lives and property is cardinal to issue of governance. I think this is a good place to let it go. Until call your way next time, remain blessed. This is Satellite Media. I am Matthew.